Director Clint Eastwood might be 80 years old, but his creative powers certainly are holding up well, as we can see in his newest film, one that borrows its title from a poem that's even older than he is by at least half a century. He has chosen to work with his old friend Morgan Freeman, casting him in the role of a lifetime, that of Nelson Mandela. More surprising is his choice of Matt Damon to play Francois Pienaar, the captain of the Afrikaner rugby team, the Springboks. Because the team was the darling of the white Afrikaners, Mandela and most other blacks used to root for the British whenever the two teams had played against each other. But that was when Mandela was serving time in the harsh prison on Robben Island. 4 years after his release, he is elected president, and now the question put to him by an editorial in a white newspaper, he can win a revolution, but can he run a country, is a challenge he strives to meet. He's too well aware that the nation is deeply divided, the whites fearing vengeance for their years of oppressing the blacks, and most of his black supporters eagerly expecting to extract it. Thus, Mandela's first decisions fly in the face of expectations. Much to the consternation of his friends, he tells the white officials and clerks that all who will work with him can keep their government positions. He even integrates his bodyguard. The black security members are aghast, because these are some of the whites that had brutalized them. Hearing over the radio that the Rugby Association Board has just voted to change the name of the national rugby team, the Springboks, and strip away its hated colors, Mandela calls for his car. The board, now run by blacks, hates both the name and the jersey colors, because they are part of the apartheid past. Nelson decides to intervene, even though this will be unpopular with his supporters. Arriving before the board ends its meeting, he urges them to rescind their earlier action. Their warm welcome quickly changes to shock and anger. But he then explains that he does not want to alienate the white supporters of the team by making such drastic changes. South Africa is to host the World Cup Games this year, and he believes that the team can help unite the nation if he can get both whites and blacks to root for it. He wins his point, but still skeptics doubt that the Springboks, having won but a few games that year, can advance very far in the playoffs. The coach of the team has been sacked, and team captain Francois Pienaar barely has kept his position. The Springboks have changed slightly with the times by adding a black player, but Mandela plans to do far more than that. He invites Francois to tea in the presidential office. Puzzled, and with his own father contemptuous of their new president, Francois accepts. As he drives up to the national capital, his wife wishes him well. Mandela warmly welcoming his visitors, the two discuss the nature of leadership and what the upcoming series of games can mean to the nation. Mandela tells how the poem INVICTUS has inspired him not to give up despite his desperate situation when he was in prison. Francois is impressed, his opinion of the new president no longer influenced by his racist father or his teammates. He had not expected such a warm, congenial conversation. True to his word, the president shows up at the games, accepting the cheers of the blacks and ignoring the hostile looks of many of the whites. Proving himself an adroit politician, Mandela is able to greet the players by name because he has taken the time to memorize them. With his faithful executive assistant Brenda Mazabuko by his side, he cheers the team on from the stands. To everyone's amazement, the Springboks, energetically led by Francois, start winning, advancing to a higher round each week. Francois thinks long and hard about their situation, even trying to get his white teammates to learn the words of the black national anthem, God Save Africa. They refuse. An important part of their campaign is for the Springboks to arouse the interest of blacks in the team. So the players visit playgrounds and teach the children rugby basics. Payne's goal of reconciliation is expressed in signs set up all around the country. The team trains hard, and in one memorable scene, we see the white members joining and singing at the start of a game the song so sacred to blacks, God Bless Africa. Francois continues to think about his friend, especially when Mandela sends him a copy written in his own hand of the poem INVICTUS. He realizes how great a man Mandela is when he and his teammates visit Robben Island, where Mandela had spent 27 years at hard labor. The facility is now a museum. No, rather a shrine, with displays depicting Mandela and his fellow inmates. In a moving scene, Francois stays behind the group so that he can enter Mandela's cell and stretch his arms out to measure how small it is. He imagines Mandela sitting there, writing and reciting the poem. Just as few had expected Mandela ever to emerge a free man again, so now few harbor any hope of the Springboks in regard to the World Cup. The last lines of the poem begin to have their effect on Francois, as they did upon his friend. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll, I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul. The president is so deeply interested in the team that one day he drops in on a training session when he is flying nearby in his presidential helicopter. As in all sports genre films, the big game finally arrives, with our team still regarded as the underdogs, even after fighting so hard to reach the final game. The president arrives and greets the crowd and players. He is wearing not only the once hated Springbok colors, but also the cap given him earlier by a white team member. He watches anxiously from the stands. Now, some critics have complained that the film provides only hints of Mandela's personal life, such as a couple of scenes with his troubled daughter, who so often seems angry with him. However, this is not really a biographical film, but rather one about a friendship, or better, a partnership, one made possible because a black man was great enough to set aside his years of bitter struggle to arrive at a place of forgiveness and then of reconciliation. And this man in turn was able to inspire a white man to greatness, buoyed up by an old poem that ended with, I am the captain of my soul. This man, who was indeed a captain, was able to motivate what had been a team of losers to do what was deemed impossible. That the Springboks won over their fierce competitors and helped bring a divided nation together would seem like a made-up ending, another sports genre chestnut, except for the fact that it really did happen. Clint Eastwood has thus given us a wonderful parable about the power of the human spirit to prevail against hatred and bitterness. I think that Gandhi would have been proud of both Nelson Mandela and Francois Pienaar. And yes, also of Clint Eastwood.